What's up? Can everyone hear me? How's it going, Alan? I see your question here about paper cutter and bread cutter. Today is all about escapes. So we'll start with Alan's question, even though it's a little specific, and it's how to deal with the paper cutter. It might be tough because I have the microphone right on my neck where the paper cutter is. When it comes to submissions like this, again, it's just the time-old question of like, how do I escape the worst possible position you can possibly be in? And it's like, it's gonna be tough. It's not like there's an easy answer for those things. It's like, there are so many things you should have done before that point to not get there, obviously, but it's like you're there anyways. What can you do? For sure, you need to know what to do from there. But if you find yourself there repeatedly, you shouldn't be relying on an escape. That's the only thing. Yeah, it's just a matter of who has a greater advantage. It's really whoever has positional advantage is going to win that engagement. If they're already strangling you and you're like fighting to defend the strangle, your chances of escape are very slim. They just have gravity and positional advantage and already have their grip set up. Looking for a reliable escape from a fully locked on submission is not your best bet, Alan. But that does not mean that you shouldn't know what to do. You definitely need to know what to do from these positions. But when I say escape, like when we talked about this, it's called escape and recover. And you're not necessarily going to be able to escape and recover over 20% of the time from a fully locked in submission. That's the only disclaimer I have. So normally when I teach moves, it's because I'm teaching them because I know they're going to work. But when it comes to escapes and recoveries, it's a tricky situation because it's not always guaranteed. Because everything's just so stacked against you in those positions. Yeah. Well, when they switch the grip to the close side horse collar under armpit, only one grip. Yeah, it's the same thing. They're just going to put their hand over your neck, and then it's going to be the end of that scenario. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm going to show you what to do, but there's not like a functional escape from there. I just need to make that clear.
I just want to make it clear that Jeep Mangler is smart.
Who's that?
Us.
Oh, he just bought the lapel encyclopedia. Very well put together. 2 chapters in. Great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah. So Alan, look at this. Like go on your back.
Are we gonna bow in? Or later?
We can bow in. Yeah. Let's officially bow in. Us. All right. So I know the position you're talking about, Alan. Go on your back here. You're talking about this position particularly. Now the problem with this is it's an underhook, right? And we know underhooks win fights. And if I have this grip here, this grip is what gives the problem because he can't turn away from me. He can't turn into me. I have 3-point pressure on. And then the only thing that can stop me from choking him here is him putting his hand in the way. And if he puts his hand in the way, it's actually not that big of a problem because you can just go underneath his hand pretty effectively. So like from these positions, you have to follow some pretty, they're reasonable just fundamentals on what you can do, but a lot of it involves fighting very hard. So if you look at how this position works, like his arm, he's not gonna be able to free his arm because I'm putting weight on it and I'm holding it here and I have my chest down if he starts to try and bring it out to the front. So how, like, if you look at the position, how can he actually escape the position? Well, he has to free his arm, right? Or he has to sit up so hard and be just pushing and fighting so hard that I lose my control position. So those are your options, really. Like, there's no counter here. Like, he's not just going to be able to do something with his body or roll in a certain way and just unwind the position. It's just
choke it from the bottom.
Yeah. There's just not much you can do. So what can you do? There are things, and I'll show you right now, but don't think of them as an escape and recovery option. There are certain ways to escape tight locked submissions in certain positions, but some positions are just more powerful than others and they don't have like as just intrinsic weaknesses that you can take advantage of. So here Miha's gonna get this under the back grip here, like this, and he's gonna start reaching over to choke me, right? So as the defender, I can't really worry about escaping here. I can only worry about surviving the choke because I have to address the final option, right? Because you've heard me talk about how he's like eliminated so many of my options until now the only option is to defend the submission or tap. Those are my 2 options, right? I don't have an option to just escape this position. I can like throw my legs up over his head or just be pushing and fighting really hard, but like as far as like actively escaping this position, it's gonna be very tough. So specifically for paper cutter, what I'm looking for is to not get choked, right? And this is the choking hand. This hand's not choking me, it's the control arm. And the control arm I can't do anything about right now because that's the arm that's really controlling me. So the one area of flexibility I have is defending this top hand, okay? And one of the best ways to actually deal with paper cutter is to kind of relinquish the position and give them north-south instead. So you can kind of choose a lesser, like a slightly easier position to escape. So if he's here perpendicular to me, I put my hand under the armpit like this. So that's the actual defense to the choke itself, is the armpit, because when he goes down to actually choke me here like this, I have to push the elbow up and away. So you start at the armpit, and if he starts trying to tuck his elbow down to choke me, I can rotate inward to north-south here. Now, if he's confident in this position, he's going to be able to follow my movements and just move back to side control again and keep attacking the choke, and we're just going to end up in this sort of circular pattern here moving, right? So what I need to do is be active with this hand, and if I can get my hand through here underneath the arm, I'm in a pretty good spot because now I have a frame, right? And so for him to get past my frame, he'd have to weave his arm under and try and fight in to get to my neck, right? And that's good, because if he moves to do something else, that means the fight is still going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get to his belt here like this. If I can get to the belt with my left hand, instead of it being here, I kind of get up to my shoulder, right? And if I have the belt, I can lock my elbow kind of in his armpit here. And now if he starts to reach for my neck, he can't actually get under my arm anymore, right? It's much more difficult for him to swim under. Like you can try me, he can try and get underneath, but it kind of sticks him in an awkward position, so it's gonna discourage him. So this belt grip's really good, but now my arm is still stuck. So you need to start using your hips to try and turn into him, and this is all going to be a fight. This is not going to be easy, right? Because your opponent is not just gonna be laying on you, waiting for you to set this stuff up. It's gonna be a struggle to escape. You're gonna have to fight super hard. You have to be in good shape because you have to be able to lift this guy's weight off of you, and you have to be able to use your whole body in unison to like create some space between us. So I need to be bridging with my hips, turning, and trying to get to my elbow here. If I can get towards my elbow or my shoulders on the mat, this bottom arm is not going to be as effective to hold me down, because this arm really just stops me from turning away as much as turning in, because I can't turn away with this grip, right? But turning in isn't that big of a deal. So I can turn in here. And if I can get my arm free from the underhook itself, I can start escaping my hips more and trying to go belly down. So once I put my arm here, I'm trying to like push at his knee and create some space. And this grip might not break, honestly. Like, it's a tight grip. It's gonna be tough to break this grip here on my neck like this. So really all I can do is try and get to my knees and create a stiff arm on his waistline here. So I'm not gonna be able to get to my elbow because this grip is not gonna break if he's secure. So let's assume that he has a good grip here. I can get to my knees here and start putting pressure with my stiff arm on the body to keep him away from me, and he's probably going to be trying to drive into me and bring me back down to the ground. And as he tries to drive into me, go ahead and drive in a little, Miha. See how this is going to drive me back over? So there's actually a little bit of space that forms. So let's turn this way. We got to turn completely. Let's move this stuff. So I'm here. I turned here like this, and as I try and drive up, there's a little bit of space that forms here, and I can start getting my arm out, right? And now, obviously, if he's a lot bigger than me, you can see how this would be tough to get up, right? Because I have to lift it all his weight. But if I can free that arm, now my bottom arm is free to actually come out to the side and potentially help me get up to my elbow to escape. But look, I'm still in a bad position because he can start attacking cross chokes and all sorts of bad stuff. So I don't want to stay here. I would just try and recover guard to create some space and get back to it. All right. So again, one of the main issues here is this arm. So like when you're getting paper cut, this is tough. So let's say I didn't get my arm in time and he starts putting the choke pressure here already. The first thing I need to do is get the elbow and try and open up the elbow, okay? As I'm trying to open up the elbow, which will be hard to do because if he engages his lat and kind of pinches this elbow down to choke me, I don't necessarily have the strength to peel his arm up. And that's why I would have to go more towards north-south. From north-south, you're a little safer from these chokes that the side control grips offer him. And from here, I can start trying to get my hands inside the arms and create some frames to block these choking options, right? That's the main thing, is just trying to defend the chokes and the submission setups first. And then a lot of times escaping really comes down to waiting for him to do something else. Because if I can get to a neutral position here where he can't really choke me with his arm, he's either going to stay here, and we're both going to stay here, and no, I'm not going to get submitted, but I'm already losing, so I have to try and escape, or he's going to keep trying to advance the position and do something else. And most of the time, the escapes come from him trying to advance position. So as he tries to do something else, I create that space, and I'm shrimping in and creating space to try and get my knee in or create some sort of space to get my body back, right? So I would say your best bet is doing the first one, but it's kind of a complex series of movements. It was going from the armpit. The bottom arm has to be kind of stuck as you do this, and I bring it out here, and even if he's going to keep that grip on the collar, I try and bring my arm out, and then that can create a little bit of space for me to get the arm under and clear this position here so I can get back to guard. So that's the problem. It's like the problem and the solution is that it's not super clear what you need to do. It's not as simple as like some sort of bridging roll that reverses the position. Like, yes, you can always try something like that. You can try for some sort of big bridge and some big roll. It really just depends on how comfortable the person is on top putting pressure. And that can be very difficult. But using the belt line is a good fundamental thing, trying to get onto your shoulder to carry your weight on the sides of your shoulder so it like compresses you here. Yeah, man, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. There's a lot of like, I think escapes and recoveries are some of the most, it's like snake oil. Like people advertising escapes and recoveries, like that it's appealing to someone who is getting stuck in those positions, right? But the reason you're getting stuck in those positions is because the rest of the jiu-jitsu is the problem. It's not your escapes and recoveries, it's the rest of jiu-jitsu. So like your guard retention, your guard recovery, all the stuff that happens before that point is what you have to work on. Because you're gonna get passed and submitted all the time. It happens to everyone, constantly. The reason it happens is because it's so hard to defend. What you can defend, what you can control on a much greater margin is your guard recovery, your hip movement as someone's trying to pass your guard, and the multitude of opportunities to just not get your guard passed, right? And people might say, oh, well, it's hard. Like, you have to have a good guard, and that's hard. Well, it's a lot harder to escape from a submission situation like that than it is to work on your guard. So I know it's like kind of like the meme to be like, oh, you should just not get there. But it's really true. And you don't want to be basing your game around how to escape things. Like, it's good to get exposed to those positions and learn how to like struggle and fight out of them, but relying on technique to get out of the absolute darkest, deepest pits of jiu-jitsu, which are these bad submission situations, can be tricky. And that's one of the like kind of the paradoxes of escapes and recovery. But there are a lot of positions where there are very clear counters and reversals. That's the thing. But it's tricky to identify which is which. And I think because there's some in some areas and less in others, that it seems like there should be answers to all the positions, but there really isn't. Well, at least not in my awareness of the overall technical field of jiu-jitsu, which I feel like I have a pretty thorough grasp on. But that's not to say there's nothing. Like, that position I've escaped from plenty of times in training. Many people have escaped from it plenty of times. Like, trying to do those kind of ideas of kind of untying the position is a good way to go. Like, trying to get my arms out of the entanglement that he was in. Like, addressing the issue itself is what you have to go for. And if you can kind of just apply that to everywhere, you're going to be better off. And I don't know if you're there, Alan, for some of the days that we did like knee on belly reversals. There's some knee on belly reversals that are really effective, which are like a perfect example of like someone passing your guard and then you've seen an opportunity to recover because they went knee on belly for a second. That's like that movement right there is how you escape the paper cutter. Like seeing the option to escape from another position, recover your guard, and then it's not it's not as big of an issue. And so what I'm going to show you just like a basic mount escape now that kind of follows that same idea. So like turning into them or turning away from them is the key from all bottom pressure escapes. Anytime someone has their weight on you, they're pushing down on you in side control, or they're threatening chokes or threatening to go to knee on belly or mount, the last thing you want to do is be laying on your back. And when you start thinking about like defending submissions, it actually puts you in a bad mindset for this, because if you think about like, oh, if I get in the submission, I'm going to do my escape from the position, it kind of lets you just get past and lay flat on your back, and you're like, okay, when the submission comes, I'm going to defend it, right? But that's the worst thinking you can have, because really it's so much more about fighting super hard before that happens, and that's how you avoid the position and the bad situation. And I think most people do this as you like get to the higher belt levels. Most people kind of transition to that, and that's why positional sparring is so important, because positional sparring lets people who have been trying so hard to avoid these bad positions actually practice from there. Because at a certain point, you get really good at avoiding the bad positions. Your guard gets better. You figure out a game, like your guard game or your passing game or your stand-up game, where you feel comfortable and you know you can get to that place and be safe and not get scored on. So then you have to start forcibly putting yourself in bad positions so you can practice from there. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's so hard to escape some of these positions. So let's go into a mount escape, which kind of follows the same principles. So I get past, my guard gets past. As I'm getting past and as he transitions to mount, I don't want to be laying flat on my back. If you're thinking about getting submitted now, that's the wrong mindset. Like, I don't want to worry about the submission now, like as he just mounted me. That time is the time that I'm least in danger, when he just gets the strong position. So the longer this position goes on, the more danger I have as far as getting submitted. So if he's here for a long time, then I have to start thinking about the submission, because he's going to be weaving his hand to my collar, start trying to like get my arm, and that's where the submissions start to come online, right? But as he just mounts me, there's no submission threat, right? So that's the time I need to be trying to get to my basic escape fundamentals, which is to line up my shoulders into his point of pressure, which in this case is going to be his chest. So I want to line up my shoulder line so that I'm carrying his weight on my sides like this. This is very important, because this eliminates half of the submission opportunities he has. If I'm here facing him, he's got both sides of my neck to choke. He's got both of my arms to choose from as far as submissions go. And if he puts pressure, it separates my arms if he pressures in, and now my arms are separated and not able to form like good defensive grips or movements, right? But the second I turn to my side, even just a little bit, now my left arm is safe, right? My right arm is actually pretty safe too, because I'm tucking it down into his hip like this. This hip frame is very important for mount, right? I don't want to be framing onto his neck from mount. That would be a really bad idea. So from guard, you frame at the neck when you're trying to defend someone's guard pass. But when they actually pass, you have to frame lower at their hips and legs, because this is the safe area to frame. So he's not going to be able to attack arm locks on me as easily. And now for him to get my top arm, which is the only arm he can actually get, he actually has to relieve pressure and try and scoop my arm. And now when he relieves pressure, this is a great opportunity for me to start trying to escape, right? So putting your arm in this area is so much more powerful than laying flat on your back like this, because from here he can keep putting pressure and he can keep getting arm lock opportunities and submission opportunities by continuing to put forward pressure. But from here, for him to get, if he's putting pressure, for him to get more opportunities, he actually has to relieve pressure, and that is crucial. So creating this opportunity where he has to relieve pressure to continue attacking is where I can actually start escaping the mount. So once I'm on my side here, this is a great spot. So let's say he doesn't try and take my arm. Worst case scenario, he's just still putting pressure. Maybe he's cross-facing me and just giving me a hard time here. I want to get this leg. So I've turned to this side. So now I've kind of limited my options as well. I can only really escape from this side now. This is the side I've committed to. Trying to turn to the other side would be pretty tricky, right? And I might get stuck along the way. So just grabbing the pants and the gi is a really good option here, like this, and just lifting this leg up and trapping it. This is like one of the best escapes you can do from mount. It's super reliable. I turn to my side, and my right hand is here blocking underhooks on this arm, because he's going to be trying to dig for underhooks, and my right arm, the one at the hip literally just goes at his and just blocks it. Every time he tries to reach, I just block and then rewind my hand. And he can keep digging all he wants. He can try and go over the top, but every time he does, I can just put my hand in there and block it. So this is why it works, okay? In addition to that, the elbow at the hip just makes it so my arm can't get driven up over my head where it's exposed to submissions, right? So blocking the underhook is super important. Him getting the underhook here is pretty much the only thing he can do to stop my escape. If he gets the underhook now, he's gonna be able to continue and pass again probably. So I need to focus on not letting him get that. Grabbing the pants and trying to get over his leg. If I can lift it with just a little bit of like a bicep curl and catch it, this is good. If I can't do that, I can step over and pull it over my leg as well. And if that's not working, maybe he's turning his toes down. And yeah, sometimes they tuck their instep to the mat like this. So now if I try and pull the leg over, it won't work. In this scenario, I have to get my toes underneath and lift it with my toes and block. So you kind of have to use a combination of these three things, trying to lift, trying to hook and pull, and trying to weave underneath to lift and trap here. Once I lift and trap, I have to try and face him now. But as I try and face him, I don't want to let him keep this knee on the mat. So I pinch my knees together tightly and I put my toes on the mat and I start using my toes to walk and then using my hip motion here to lift this knee off the mat. So I'm like pointing my toes in the mat here like this, using that to shrimp and then get my hand on top of the knee to block like this. And now I'm still worried about underhooks. If at any point he starts trying to underhook me, I block and reset. You have to maintain an underhook fight at all times. Like you have to be aware when you're escaping. Because if at any point during my escape I get caught in an underhook, he's just gonna get the position back, okay? So in my defense, my primary defense is really, first, get to a position where submissions are not as much of a threat. Second, focus on not letting him get control points, which would be underhooks or cross faces. And then third, actually try and escape. So you have to kind of do it in that order. So I've dealt with the submission opportunities by putting my elbow here and turning it to my side. I'm dealing with the underhooks because you can only underhook to this side by just using my Wing Chun defense here. And then with the actual escape, I've lifted his foot up or pulled his foot up doing one of the three ankle traps. And then to actually get over the knee, I have to bring my knees close to my chest, as close as I can, and turn, and that will lift his knee. And then I start trying to get to half guard. But in the motion of getting to half guard, I'm gonna change my hip block from my right arm to my left arm. So I clear and I put my hip block to my left arm, like this. And then from this position, to create space, I have two options. Let's turn the other way here. So I have my hip block on this side, and the reason we do the hip block is just to avoid underhooks and avoid submission opportunities. But once you're in half guard, you don't have to worry about the submission opportunities as much. But let's assume he's still putting a lot of pressure and we're trying to wriggle out from underneath him. So I have to have my frame somewhere, okay? So there's two ways I can do this. I can start moving my frame up to try and relieve pressure this way, here, but this kind of just, you're kind of just giving him half guard. Like if you move up to your frame to his neck, it's like you're conceding that you're just gonna play half guard now. And that's fine, you can play half guard. But if you're escaping, you might as well take the most advantage of the escape as you can. And to do that, it's a little bit different. And what my goal would be is just to not go only to half guard. I could get back to a full guard or an open guard if I do this a little differently. So escaping from the half guard. You can continue escaping if you have this hip block, okay? So again, it's the same thing, just getting leverage, making sure that he can't continue trying to pass your guard, blocking the legs, not letting him, like grabbing the pants is actually kind of a good thing because if he starts windshield wiping over my legs and using this foot and creating pressure on me to continue passing, it's going to be a problem. So isolating this leg for a second can be good, especially with the hip block. Now from here, I can't really lift his weight off of me with my bottom arm. It's just trapped here, but this is just defending me from underhooks. Because if I put it up here, he can just clear this or duck his head underneath and start getting my arm up, and that's going to be really bad for me. So what I'm going to do is try and get to my elbow. And I do that by actually trying to go as face down as possible. So if you can't get your elbow underneath you this way, you have to straighten it and go this way, okay? Bringing your arm out behind you is really good because even if he underhooks here, with this arm, it doesn't actually give him very much power to drive me down. And then from here, I'm just shrimping my bottom leg out because now it's not trapped and I can actually create space to get my foot back to closed guard. Okay? So that's like a really simple but effective way to escape the mount. And that kind of idea applies from almost all bottom positions, like side control, north, south, and mount. You're kind of looking for that turning to one side or the other and then hip blocking. I'll show side control next. And Alan, yeah, immediately turning to your side is going to help a lot, because say someone passes your guard, the only way they can set up paper cutter is if you're being flat on your back. So like if Miha passes to one side or the other, it doesn't really matter. And the first thing I do is just turn like this and catch his weight on my shoulder. How's he going to paper cut me? Because for him to paper cut me, he has to get under this arm and get to my back. So with one 6-inch movement of just going from here to here as someone passes my guard, I've protected myself from the paper cutter entirely. There's a plane flying overhead, so we stopped for a second. So like a few inches turning in or a few inches turning out saves you from so many bad attacks, so many bad submissions. And the only way he can really get those is if I just lay flat on my back. And the way that happens is like doing bad guard recoveries where you're just pushing and not really having a secondary plan, and then they pass because you were just pushing. And then now I'm flat on my back, and you might think like, oh, I'm just chilling here. Like I'm going to escape this position. But now he just has free reign to set up any sort of submission attack he wants. Whereas if, as I was defending the guard pass, I was shrimping and trying to get my knees involved, and then I'm blocking and making sure to put a cross position on the legs or the arms, and then he still passes. Here, at least I'm on my side, right? And if I'm on my side, well, my right arm is safe from submissions because it's on the bottom. There's not really much he can do here. My top arm is pretty safe because he doesn't have an underhook on it, because for an underhook to be effective, it would have to be on this side of his body, right? This is bad. If I'm here, I'm not going to be able to do anything. So some just basic ideas of just turning in and keeping your hands together to create this strong frame and blocks, and using that to be able to get up to your elbow, even if it threatens exposing your back. Like if he jumps on my back here, that's fine. I would rather have him jump on my back here than me be flat on my back while he's in top side control. Because at least from the back, I know I can escape, because there's actually a lot of really good just like gripping options that don't require strength or timing or any sort of speed like a lot of bottom side control stuff does. Escaping bottom side control is actually a very athletic activity, just why I try and avoid it as much as possible. It's just so much harder to escape those positions. And then from side control, it's the same thing. Like, there are positions like maybe a really good knee cut or something, where if he's knee cutting me and he's got like, yeah, he's maybe got this pant leg and I can't turn in really effectively, and as he slides his knee out, I try and turn in. It doesn't matter, because it's like he knee cut me, so he's got his hip down, and me turning in is not as effective. Because now if he turned in and my arm is over his arm, it's not going to do as much. My hand has to be under his arm like this, and I have to be blocking to try and get more to my side here, and then be looking to either go to like pancake positions or something like that. But there are situations where you do get stuck flat in bottom side control, and the goal doesn't change, right? Because if I just stay here, I'm waiting for him to do something. And yes, like I can bridge and push and try and recover, but really before you just do one big movement, it's really just the first movement, and that's either turn in or turn out, okay? And if I can't get both my arms to one side or the other, I have to think about which side I'm going to go to, right? Because if I don't see a pathway to get this arm underneath, like he has good shoulder pressure here, and I'm not able to get this arm in, I won't be able to get my left arm in to turn in, but maybe I can push his neck and get my right arm in to turn away and accomplish the same kind of like shoulder catch, where I'm holding his weight on my shoulders instead of on my chest, okay? So the very first goal of escaping a bottom position is to get your hands together, like prayer style. And then the second I have my hands together, using that to like create space with like a combination of bridging, pushing, and then dropping the space I made. Like lifting your hips is not about the lift, it's about the negative movement. Because like I lift up to create space, and then I just hold his weight there as I drop and turn. Does that make sense? Because you don't lift and then try and turn. That doesn't make sense. You lift to hold his weight up above you, and then on the drop of your hips gives you space. The drop gives you space to start turning in and away. And then from here, once my hands are together, I have to think, okay, well, what are the submission opportunities? Well, my right arm is in danger. If he starts trying to reach for the right arm, I'm going to be in trouble. So what can I do? Well, the first thing you can do to protect this right arm is just get a sleeve grip like this. Because if I get a sleeve grip, he can't actually submit me. Even if he goes for an arm bar here, it's going to be pretty tough because he needs this arm to be able to control my arm to actually lock up a submission. Okay? So turning in, or turning out, I should say, I would go for the sleeve control. Same thing, getting up to my elbow, trying to use that to turn back in. And if I can turn in, if I see an opportunity, or maybe he like tries to go to like a iron curtain position or something here, if I can turn in, well, this is a good time to turn in. I can turn in, carry his weight here, like this. I can start pushing at the hip and getting up to my elbow. And this hip control, coupled with the elbow post, is very strong because he can drive into me all he wants, but I can actually like create space still, regardless of how much he drives into me, because my left arm is blocking his weight as he tries to drive in. And then I can get my legs back in front of me. And this is why I think it's important to do a lot of weightlifting, because you need to be able to have your arms be able to push in kind of weird directions and like weird motions, and you have to be able to drive people up and off of you in really awkward body positions. And it's hard to replicate all of them. So doing just like a very versatile weightlifting program where you do a lot of different lifts, even like bodybuilding style lifts of like weird shoulder raises and stuff, I've always found that to be really effective, because when I'm in these positions where like my elbows are pinched and I need just a little extra space, like having just a tiny little bit of extra strength to create some more space and then use the negative space that I created to create an opportunity to escape, is really valuable. And I think that's where some people get, well, I know I did. I personally had a lot of trouble escaping from bottom positions because I thought that everything in jiu-jitsu is like, oh, there's just a technical solution for everything. And there is technical applications for everything, but a technical solution for everything, not quite. So like I'm using technical applications here, trying to turn my shoulders in certain ways to be more efficient with my movement and strength. But then when it comes down to it, there's a little bit of grit involved, and you got to be able to just get up, you know? You got to be able to fight someone's weight off you. And that doesn't necessarily mean some fluid gripping sweep or reversal. A lot of times that's direct fighting fire with fire. He's driving into you and you're driving back to stop his forward progression. Does that make sense, Alan? I know that's a long-winded explanation, but it does apply to your specific question as well. How to escape from the closed guard arm drag? That's actually a good question. The arm drag is really tough, and it comes down to a lot of the same stuff we've been talking about. This is like the idea of like your hips being flat and your hips turning. So for the person on bottom, so he has me in closed guard. For Miha to attack me effectively from closed guard, he has to get his hips to one side or the other. So from bottom, the role changes, right? I'm on top now. My job is to pass his guard. If I do pass his guard, it's to try and isolate an arm or part of his neck to submit him. For him on bottom, his job is to not get his guard passed, put me in a closed guard, and then try and isolate an arm or a neck, right? So for him to isolate an arm or a neck, he has to commit all of his power, both his limbs, his hips, to one side of my body, usually. And the way that happens is by controlling one side of my body. My right side of my body is controlled. And then he starts trying to move his hips out to that side as well. And the hips going out to that side is the real problem here, because now my right leg is blocked from doing anything. I can't lift my knee up as effectively. I'm not able to face him as easily because the arm is turned and my right knee is kind of held by his hips here. So I want to try and get his hips back to flat before I try and do anything else. If I stay here or try and drive in, this is where the arm drag works, by continuing to put forward pressure, okay? And that might not be the exact arm drag that you're asking about, but it applies to most closed guard arm drag things here. So putting pressure is not the answer. I want to try and bring my weight back to the other side. So he wants to go that way. So I have to stop him from continuing that way. So I need to bring his body back this way. But obviously I can't grab him. So I have to bring my body from here to the other side. So I step my right leg up. And the right leg up is only to block his hips from continuing around my back. Because if I can keep this leg up, if he tries to continue circling around my back, it's actually very, very difficult for him to actually take my back, as long as I just keep a neutral posture. If I try and drive in, it's not gonna work. He's still gonna take my back. And if I try and stand up from here as well, he can also take my back because he can just follow up with me and then take my back. So you put your leg up and then you sit still. That's the key. So I feel him coming out to the side. As this happens, I step my leg up and I just chill. My action dictates what he does next, right? Once I have this leg up, I'm trying to get my hand across his body like this. If I can get my hand across the neck or even to the other armpit like this is going to be a pretty good spot here because this will help defend against arm bars as well. And this leg is defending against the arm bar as well. So if I like get my arm to his neck and he tries to arm lock me, having my knee over his hip makes it so he can't lift his hips up to my armpit, right? If my knee is down, then the arm bar comes on no problem. So whenever your arm crosses this center line, it's in danger for arm drag and arm bar, and you counter it by putting the opposite knee up to keep his hips on the mat. It just kind of creates a little cage for him to block, for me to block his hips from coming around the back of my body. Then from here, I'm going to the neck, and then using this little leverage point I have on the neck to bring my elbow across his body again, so he can keep the sleeve grip. I'm gonna be pulling my elbow across here like this. So he has to try and keep my arm extended with just his tricep, and it's his tricep versus like my rowing strength. So I actually have a pretty good angle to beat this and bring the arm across, okay? The only reason I couldn't pull it across before is because he has the over the back grip, right? So the top grip across the neck beats the over the back grip, because with this I can duck my head out and then pull my arm across. So we're just like systematically answering each one of his body positions and what that body position is trying to accomplish. So the hips are the main issue. That's the first thing I'm gonna control. As he tries to get his hips out to one side, I block the hips. Then it's like, well, the back issue, because if I don't clear the back grip, I can't clear the sleeve grip. So I deal with the over the back grip, and then I pull the right arm across. And even if he keeps the sleeve grip, I can pull it to a point where I can get back to center. And then this time, I know he wants to go for the arm drag, so I'll secure a grip on the belt or on the opposite collar. So if he tries to arm drag me now, I have a secure grip that won't let that happen. And then actually escaping close guard. There's really only like two main close guard escapes. Standing up, but when you stand up, making sure not to have your ankles close to his hips. So I put my hands in his armpits to stop arm bars, arm drags, cross chokes, any sort of submission threat. Your arms are safe here with your fingers down, and I stand up. And before if I'm holding his armpits, I'm not gonna get double ankle swept yet. But as I stand up, if I stay with my feet here, I am gonna get double ankle swept back. So once my hands are in the armpits here and I stand up, one thing to note too, I don't just stand up here, I actually just like walk forward using his body to like help me gain height. So I'm just like walking into him, and that's just curling his body up. So I don't actually have to lift his weight. If I go here and then lift, like I'm using a deadlift strength. But you can be a little more efficient just by driving forward and just walking with your toes here. And now when I stand up, just my back lifts, my hips are already in the lifted position. So I don't have to lift any more of his weight. So I step one leg back as I stand up. And this will protect me from the double ankle sweep. Because when he tries to reach for my ankles, one leg will be back and out of range. And then, for those of you that have been attending all the live streams, you know the next step for me on top is to get into a guard passing engagement with something like this, where I can get to like a cross position where I'm not in an immediate threat. Whereas any other guard, if he gets grips on me, I'm under threat again. He can elevate and off balance, and he still has control of the match. Okay? That's good for that one. Toreando pass defense is another good weird one. And I think that's why I think defense and escapes, it's so enticing because it's like, oh yeah, having a good defense, no one can get good position on you, or they can't pass your guard, they can't submit you. And that's great, but it doesn't function under the same rules as offense does. Because offensive jiu-jitsu, it's very precise, and it's like if you put your foot in this spot in their hip and you lift them this way, they don't have balance, and you can pass their guard. Or while you're passing, it's like you're just very clearly trying to stop him from being able to use his legs in a certain way, and it's very restraining, and you're just trying to restrain his body with a series of like proper grip movements and pressure. And so you can write it out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or however many steps there are. Do these steps, and then you will pass, submit him, or whatever, with a pretty good success rate. But for defense, it's not as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like step 1, if they do this, you do step 2. If they do this, you do step 1 again, or a different step 1 to a different thing, right? So it comes down to less about like 1, 2, 3, 4, and more about like, well, what can you do from most positions on bottom defensively? And it usually is a series of like pushing, because remember, if you're pushing, you're losing. If you're pulling, you're winning most of the time. There's very few offensive attacks in jiu-jitsu that require a push. It's mostly a pulling motion that creates an offensive attack in jiu-jitsu. So defense comes from pushing. So just on average, it's going to be an opposite style of grappling when you're losing. You're going to be pushing. And Toreando is a great example of this, because when I'm playing guard, my attacks are pulls, right? I have sleeve grips. I'm pulling him into me. I'm pulling to like pull him into submissions, or pull him into off balances, or pull him into tighter guards. And then for him as the passer, he's pulling my legs down or towards him, or grabbing my collar or something and pulling me in. And like everything is a pull. And whoever is not pulling is probably pushing to resist the pull, right? So if he's pulling my legs down for like just a normal Toreando pass, like pulling here, I'm probably going to have to be pushing, right? Like my first instinct is going to be to push, okay? But in this situation, it doesn't work, and that's why Toreando is really effective. Like just pushing is not enough, because he's pulling at my legs. He's created this point of contact where it's like he can just pivot around this point, and me pushing on his hips doesn't do much because my legs are still extended and put away. So this is the wrong place to push. The right place to push is at the point of control, okay? And this usually applies to most passes too. Wherever they're controlling you, like the grips, that's the place to push. Like pushing on the hips usually is not the best option. So from here, you have two things you can do. You can go cross grip here and immediately just set your body into position where if you were to get past, you have the shoulder line up, right? So I have the cross grip sleeve. This sleeve grip is going to stop me from being put in immediate submission threats. And as he continues to pass around to his left, go ahead, Miha, pass to your left a little. I'm here. So I didn't change my body position. He just continued the pass. My shoulders are lined up with the pressure, or the direction of pressure he's going to be putting on me. So as he pushes into me, go ahead, push in to solidify the pass. I'm here. I'm on my elbow. I turn to the side. I'm already in defensive escape posture before he even passed, okay? This is important, okay? Because most of the time, jiu-jitsu techniques are taught like you need to get to this position after he passes. So most of the time it'd be like, oh yeah, push, stop, and then if you get past, it's like, oh, you're in side control. All right, now what do? Well, I'm gonna try and get up and get to this position. So why not just do that immediately? Okay, just add, like your whole guard retention game should just include that already. You shouldn't have to like go all the way down to the bottom and then claw your way back out. If someone's about to pass my guard in a specific direction, like this side, and I see an opportunity to just get my sleeve grip that protects me from submissions and get my shoulder line that protects me from his pressure, I'm going to be fine here. He's probably not going to even be able to pass, because as he continues to circle around me, I have two options. Well, if I have the sleeve grip, he can't connect the seatbelt, so he won't be able to take my back. He can't arm bar me because I have the arm, so he only really can attack with one arm. And so I have two options. I can turn into him or I can turn away from him. If I turn into him, I'm just trying to like follow until I can get my legs back. Or if he continues trying to pass around my back as I do that, I go the other way and recover, like so. So that's one way to deal with the Toreando. And isn't it better to grip the other hand? You would think so. Most people do that, but it's actually not. Because if I grip this hand, okay, so this was his question. This is how most people teach this defense. It's like this. Do it like this, they say. This is what they say, right? The problem with this is this doesn't actually protect my arm from submissions. If he just lifts his elbow up and over, he actually has a better grip for the arm bar. Whereas if I have this grip and he tries to go for arm bar, go ahead, go like all the way for it. Like the fact that he doesn't have control with this arm means that at any point I can let go and escape. So if he tries to go for an arm bar, I can just let go and this arm is doing nothing. Whereas the other one, when I was here, if he hooks, if I let go, nothing, like he's the one who can continue attacking the movement. And also, there's a finger lock from this position actually. If you grab the near side arm and you keep the sleeve like this, he can go over the top and your fingers can get locked here like a wrist lock. And I tap people with this all the time when they try this on me, like a near side push. So I personally don't teach the near side grip because there are two very specific counters that counter the near side grip. It's not hard to deal with. Far side grip is much harder to deal with because you have a lot of options. For instance, I can be shrimping, yes, but if you're a guard player, you have the option of spider hooks. Like, even though he just beat my spider guard with Toreando, you could bring your foot inside the arm by falling back and put a spider hook back to recover your guard. And now I'm back in guard, right? So like I'm playing spider, he beats my spider and starts pushing down. From here, I can't put my feet in to get spider back, but if I go cross grip, there's a very good chance that I can get one of my feet or both of my feet into the arm and use that cross step to recover. So that's one option from the Toreando pass. Another good one is whenever someone reaches for a Toreando is to change your body position drastically. So here my legs are up, my head is down. This is what makes the Toreando strong. And if he grabs my legs and pushes them down and I leave my head down, this is the danger, right? That you're not sitting up. So it's like he unwound my position, he broke the knee line, the guard becomes weak. If I stay here, it's bad. So what can you do? Well, your first option is the one we just talked about, is just kind of staying up and grabbing cross sleeve, right? Or same side sleeve if you're feeling risky. What you can do is just this cat's paw grip is not as effective. You definitely want to go pistol grip, but even still, it leaves you open to that Kimura. The next thing you can do is like sit up and then put your head in between his arms, like this. Now this is risky in itself, but if he tries to Toreando me, look what happens. He actually can't pass your guard with just Toreando. He has to let go and do something else, right? And the fact that he has to let go of his grips to do something else, you just can pretty easily recover guard. So if I'm here and I put my head underneath and then just control one of the arms like this, so I'll control one arm and then block the other arm. The reason I do this is I don't want to get front head locked. So I want to control one arm so he definitely can't choke me with that arm. And then the other arm is on the inside, so if he tries to grab my head with the other one, I don't get front head locked. And if he lets go of my pants at any time, to do that, I can bring my head out and go back to my guard play. And I've dealt with the Toreando instantly, okay? Another thing you can do, hugging his arms together is actually a surprisingly effective Toreando counter because he needs to be able to push his arms to this side to get the pass. And then not only that, he needs to separate his arms and block my bottom knee and then push my top knee to get a clean Toreando pass. Because if he keeps both hands together and pushes with just his shoulder like this, I can still sit up and he won't have cleanly passed. Someone will continue pushing, fighting. He won't have secured the pass. So to do a clean pass, to actually pass my guard, he has to open his arms like that. So when someone grabs your Toreando grip and I don't get my head under, but I hug both his arms together, I hug them. I don't even have to use both arms. I just use both arms to secure, but then once I get this far elbow grip, like this is called an elbow tie, where you tie both of their arms together. If he continues trying to pass, go ahead and continue trying to pass, he can't push this knee up and over. So I'm like holding his weight on my shoulder, and the only way for him to continue is to let go with one hand or the other. So usually the near side hand is what would let go. So no, the other hand here. I mean, they could do anything really, but if they let go with the near side hand, my bottom leg is free, and that's going to give me an opportunity to escape and roll back in, okay? And this works to either side. So if he still is passing this way, and I manage to connect his arms here, you can have that grip still. I managed to connect his arms on this side, it's the same thing. He can continue trying to pass around to this side, but he kind of gets stuck at this halfway point, and like, yes, this isn't a guard for me, but it's better than getting toreando passed. And when he lets go, in this situation, he would probably let go of his right hand and try and pull it out. That's gonna give me an opportunity to face him again and recover. So, kind of coupling those two things together can be really effective if you don't have the dexterity in your legs to do some of the other spider or toreando defenses. And yeah, you don't have a lot of mobility, but you're just winning the hand fight there by getting better hand fight control using elbow ties or the cross sleeve grip, which I call the pancake guard, stuff like that. You can keep spinning with the loop choke if he did. Yeah, that's the thing. He has to keep his head low for that to work, and then it leaves him open to his neck. It's just a good way to just stop some of the basic things that make the toreando work.
Sunshine was in there with a good request if you can reshoot the armbar defense where you grab your own thigh.
Yeah, we can do that.
Something wrong with it.
I'm going to show one other toreando thing since we're on the topic. This is a toreando defense for when you can't sit up, okay? So maybe you don't feel comfortable sitting up, or maybe you have a bad neck and you don't feel comfortable like using your head like this to play other guards. When someone pulls your legs down like this, the first thing you have to do is go over the top of the arms, like this. That will beat it. The reason it works is like, if he pulls my legs down, I just can't bring them directly back up into spider, which is what most people try and do. The correct answer is just to go up and over instantly. So like the second I'm playing spider and he manages to pull my legs off the spider, it's just go back up over the top. It's actually a very simple solution. Just do that every single time they try and pull your legs down. Just bring your feet over the top, and he won't be able to continue passing. He has to let go of these grips and try again. And then as he does that, you'll get your spider guard back, or whatever open guard you were playing, because obviously spider guard doesn't always is the only guard that toreando passes. It would work from like sleeve or collar sleeve as well. If he pulls my legs down, just immediately throwing your legs up and over stops that, and you'll be able to recover. But that's something you got to drill a little bit. So let's talk about armbar escapes real quick, because it's a deep subject. There's so much to talk about in armbar escapes. We actually should probably do that another time, because it's like, I want to do it right. We'll make a note of it.
We could do a whole
Yeah, it needs a whole one, honestly. Can you show how to stop the basic hip escape counter when on mount bottom without giving up your back? We went over that at the beginning of the live stream. Just go ahead and rewind it. Ghost Phantom 98, you can find what we did there. I inadvertently answered your question in the instructional. Knee bar escape, knee bar escape is good, actually. Let's do knee bar escape. Because there's less options than the armbar escape. So first we have to look at what situations do you get put in a knee bar. You get a knee bar from bottom, and you get a knee bar from top. There's different preemptive escapes along the way, but we'll just do like the basic one, like if you get fully caught in a knee bar. Let's say you get knee barred from top. So this is less common. Knee bars from top used to be all the rage actually back in the early 2000s when I started training. There's a lot of like spinning knee bars from top. So like just pick a leg and knee bar like here. So they sit through to the knee bar. The very first thing you'll notice is Miha's sitting his weight on my stomach, and that's very good technique from him, because if you put his hips off to the side like this, I'm not holding his weight anymore. It's a lot easier for me to figure four my legs, and he's in closer reach to my arms, right, which are the main three leg lock defenses or knee bar defenses. So he's here, he's sitting on me like this. The very first thing I have to do is block my leg from getting fully extended, because his first goal in mind is to extend that leg and knee bar me. So the very first thing I have to do is block here. The second thing I have to do is just fall to the side. He wants to knee bar me anyways, so I can get his weight off me. Once his weight's off me, I have a little bit more options here. So this is the tricky part, because he's going to be trying to unweave my legs and straightening my leg here. And at the same time, I'm going to be trying to lock my figure 4 up super tight so that I can stop him from knee barring me completely. So as he's trying to extend my leg, I need to think about 2 things. The first is my hamstring strong enough to counter his pull, or is it not? And so are you losing this fight or not? If I'm losing this fight and I feel like my leg is getting extended, I have to very quickly, before I release my pressure of resistance, I have to turn my whole body this way very quickly in the exact same moment that I lose the fight. It's a timing-based thing, okay? So even if I have a full figure 4, you may have to do this sometimes, because if he peels with the top foot off in an effective way and my bottom leg's extended, I have to extend and turn my toes away, okay? So the only reason this works is because of the defense. Because if I'm defending without using my other leg, so let go for a second, if I'm here and he gets control of my ankle and he is stopping my heel from turning and I try and turn, I'm gonna heel hook myself. So you can't just do this. It has to be coupled with the other leg, because the other leg locks over your foot in a way that stops him from controlling my bottom foot in that heel hook rotation. So my toe has to be this way, so I use my other foot to make sure that it's stuck there, okay? And if I'm not doing that, and I'm just crossing my ankles here like this, I can already feel my knee twisting the second I think about turning like this. So the second the knee bar gets thrown on, I have to lock my feet. I want to be trying to get to the figure 4, but if I'm losing that battle against a really good knee barrer, I have to turn my toes, open my body up, and look this way. Notice I'm not like trying to rotate in place. I'm not trying to like sit this way. I'm literally straightening my body and doing like this big dramatic, my knee, my body can't get to the other side to follow, right? Because his legs are in the way. So I have to open my body up so that when the turn happens, I'm actually facing the proper direction. Because if I turn my leg first, my body won't be able to follow in time, okay? Once I turn like this, my toe is pointed out, I'm not in danger of the leg lock anymore unless he completely rolls to the other side somehow and follows me, which is what he should be doing, honestly, like this. He can still finish these leg locks here, but you can stop that from happening by, when I'm turning like this, clearing the bottom legs and trying to drive back into him like this, compressing, and then if I can get my foot down to the mat here, I'll be in a good spot. Even if he's like still holding onto the leg lock, you can cross face and eventually sprawl your leg out. So that's if you have to twist and get out. It's not ideal. The second option is figure 4. So here, I push him off to the side and I get a fully figure forward lock. In this situation, I can't twist. If I'm trying to twist, my own figure 4 stops me. So my goal is to just get cross collar grip. I get the cross collar grip, and this is my anchor point to pull myself up so I can get both my knees on the mat. So even if he has he's got his leg through or his arm through fully, I'm here and I get the cross collar grip. I'm using my left hand to bring my weight up over the top of him, and I'm trying to put my head right next to his head. And I can do that by holding on around his head once I get on the ground. So I can't just bring them to the ground. His hips are heavy. I can't just lift his hips like this. But what I can do is I can pull myself up on top of him so that the pressure is like over his head, and that's gonna put my knee down. And once I secure this grip and I connect my hands around the face, he's not gonna be able to pull me through anymore, okay? If he's really tricky and like way stronger than me and maybe he outweighs you, he could like pull you up and roll through again and then get your leg, but it's pretty unlikely. So sitting up and driving into him is usually my most successful defense, and it usually can result in a pass. So Alan, that's a good example of a actual counter, which is I think why leg locks are a little less popular in the gi is they have higher risk. If you mess up the leg lock, you're going to get smashed and passed usually, whereas some of the other positions don't have that same risk. All right, the next one, knee bar from bottom here. So, I'm defending the knee bar from bottom, is here, locking like this. In this situation, sometimes people will keep their weight on you a little bit, like just staying here so that I can't sit up, right? So maybe he's just taking his time. He wants to use this as a control rather than immediate submission. If he wants to submission immediately, he would fall to that side and start trying to pull my leg, and that's where I might have my escape opportunity. So maybe he's a calculated psychopath and really wants to wait it out until he gets it super secure. Maybe he's trying to go for like a knee bar lock on me and trap my other foot too or something, so I have no escape, which would be a good idea. If I'm here, I can actually kind of use his own hesitation to my advantage by trying to get my foot underneath this leg here. If I can hook my foot underneath the far leg, it's going to create a perfect little slide for the knee bar foot to hook. Once that knee bar foot is hooked here, now he can't actually knee bar me unless he clears his own leg over the top of my foot. But because I'm going to keep it extended, he won't be able to do that. So now as he tries to follow up on the knee bar and try and clear his foot, I just keep my leg straight, and then I do the same thing. I try and sit up into him with that leg trapped behind. Don't make the rookie mistake of clearing your leg too early though, because he might be able to catch it and bring you back down. So I'm here like this, and I'm fishing for that underfoot hook, all right? I can just relax here. I have my figure four. I know I'm like safe for the moment. I can even hold him close to me just so I'm kind of grabbing onto him to make sure he doesn't fall to the knee bar side. And I'm fishing for this hook. That creates the perfect little track for my other foot to follow. And then I can extend both to really make sure that happens, or you can just let go and just extend that leg. I usually like to not extend until, like I'll keep it in this foot, because he can't get his foot off this hook either. It's actually pretty hard for him to get this foot off either if you just follow it. And I'll use this to like rock him forward and then back to help me sit up before following up with the other one. So now I'm up, I'm in like a good technical get up situation, and he's in kind of an awkward seated position where it's pretty easy for me to just pull my leg out completely. Honestly, I can just come on top and pull my leg out. All right, that one is one of my favorites, and it's one I try and throw on. Like if someone does like a stand up, do the knee bar where you go through this side. Yeah, if someone goes through this side, a lot of times, like as they're setting up the position, even if I don't get the figure four right away, I'll just use one foot to like be here as they're trying to reach and just hook it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be figure four, hook, and then go. That's fine. But sometimes you'll have to grab your own foot and be trying to defend and then use the other foot to lift to get that leg under so you can come up and block. So these are more of guidelines rather than rules of escape, but the idea is to like put your foot through to the far side. Now there's one more knee bar escape I want to show you before we end this. And this is a cool one because it actually results in a submission for you a lot of the time, instead of just a reversal or a pass. This one works especially good no-gi, but knee bars from top especially are not as common anymore. Knee bars from bottom, you can follow a lot of the same defenses, but knee bars from top are not as common for this reason, because there's so many counters to them. So Mihai gets a knee bar on me, doesn't matter which way, and I'm here. But let's say every time I figure four, he's like reaching across to my toes and pulling my foot up, and I feel like I'm just getting beaten in this leg entanglement battle here. What I'm going to do is I still always want to be prioritizing figure four, but if I'm losing that battle, I reach under the near arm and grab around his neck here like this. If I can secure my hands together in some grip, I always like to do gable grip for these kind of things. If I get this grip, now even if my leg is fully extended and he tries to sit to get the knee bar, it's going to be pretty tough for him to fully extend my leg. Like he can still do it, but it's going to be hard to actually finish. For him to actually finish, he has to extend his body completely, break my grip around his neck, and then finish. So if I can get this here, and as he sits, you have to do something kind of scary. You have to take your other foot off and plant it. And as he sits to fall back, you have to trust that your grip is going to hold. And as it holds, you're trying to drive him up and over. And then from here, you actually won't be able to see it from this angle. Let's do it the other way. So I'm here, and I'm losing the battle. I'm planting, and I'm pulling until I can get my weight on top. And now this is time I'm not looking for pressure. I'm just looking to lock up a figure four on the head like this. And once you start tightening up this figure four, he has to start thinking about this choke defense. And then from here, you can either finish it with normal head and arm finishes, like where you come off to this side and finish with a head and arm, or you can do the version I like, which is just the arm in, rear naked choke right there. That one's actually really good, but better than no-gi because it requires more like sliding your arm in. The gi sleeves and the collar, the friction makes it difficult to shoot in there. But you could also do Ezekiel. Yeah, and then from bottom, what are some good knee bars from bottom, Mihan? Just sitting, you kind of just roll through,
I
or?
like one from half guard. If you go down on your knees, slide, get this arm here, slide this over, and then use the movement.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good one. So, look what Mihan did here. Go do it on from this side. So this is a common knee bar attack. He actually he pulls the leg across, and then he keeps my knee bent and torques the knee so that I can't resist it. That's why it works. Because if he just tried to come over the top here, it's not going to do much. So my knee was bent resisting, and that creates a really easy knee torque that was going to result in him rolling through. So what you have to do in this situation is you do have to go with it. And as you go with it, you have to be ready to block immediately. Because you only have like about 6 inches of give here before it starts hurting your leg. So as he rolls through, you have to lock. And this is why you got to be doing your deadlifts, because these hamstrings need to be heavy, right? You need to be able to hamstring curl a lot to defend someone who's strong on a knee bar. So weightlifting is important. Then it's just the same thing that we did earlier, trying to get up to his head, make an arm connection, and beat that grip with pressure and sprawls. And that's going to be kind of how you deal with those. And then the same things apply, like getting your foot through to the other side, figure fouring, hooking the other one, and then using that as a track. Can you attack your toe hold on your right leg once you figure fours your legs? Kind of. He could try, but he doesn't have control of that hip or any of the joints on that leg, so it's not going to work. I mean, it kind of can, but it's not as effective. Because once he takes his hands off the knee bar leg to go for the toe hold, the knee bar leg can just come out because nothing's controlling it anymore. So you just take your knee bar leg out, and then you just continue to pressure in. But so to answer your question, no, toe hold is not a good option there.
Toe hold is especially a bad option if I try to do it from a knee bar position on the leg I'm trying to knee bar.
It just turns into a back attack,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah, there is a knee bar escape. I don't think it's very good though, where you pull their knee open. That's like if you're fully, you can just do it on this leg. This is like, it's into the road. Like he's knee barring you, and they'll like pull the leg like this. It's pretty ineffective. Like, oh man, the problem with this one too is it's usually only done when your leg's fully extended. And if you try and turn out, like if I try and turn at the same time, you're gonna get your knee blown out. I'd rather take the knee bar straight on and just tap than try and risk the escape at this point, because now you're adding twisting to compression on the joint, and that's how things get torn. So I would not do this. Your best bet, again, even if it's fully extended, is just try and get your foot in and start engaging those hamstrings instantly. And it
one thing to mention, maybe under the armpit knee bars.
Oh yeah.
You don't get out of those really.
Yeah, if they manage to get the arm underneath, that's another fully extended situation. And those can be set up, there are knee bars obviously that can be set up like fast, where they immediately get over your leg and you can't defend, like some of the 50-50 knee bar attacks. So, knee bar guard is another guard we have to go over. Knee bar guard. There's a whole guard system that just lets you get knee bars all over the place. When someone is standing in your single leg X, how do you stop them from pushing your knee down and sitting into mount? You got to have a better single leg X, man. That's just you sitting there in a single leg X, not doing anything. If they just can push your knee down and go straight to mount, you're not doing enough. You need to be off balancing and looking for sweeping options, and they shouldn't ever have the balance to stop and be like, oh, I'm just going to push his knee down and mount him. You got to be attacking. Escaping Ezekiel's, that's pretty tough as well. We'll do a submission escapes one. Today we focused on position mostly, and then a little bit of the knee bar submissions, but next week we'll do arm bar defense and submissions, and then we can go over some of those questions like escaping from Ezekiel's and foot locks. We need to go over extensive foot lock escapes, and then just like have a link for when people ask about foot locks. And yeah, Alan, you're active in the Discord today. You said You need to just do stuff instead of expecting everything to be technically mapped out and sound. Yeah, it would be unreasonable for you to even be able to hold all that information in your brain if it did exist. Like, you're not going to be able to have one specific counter to every single submission that someone does to you. So much of it is just the build up to that point. So much of just the counters are knowing that that's a position you have trouble with and then making sure you do everything in your power not to get there. But the stuff I showed you today will work. Like, it is a good goal, but don't expect you to just get out every time. It's not going to do that. Did you go over Kesa Gatami escape already? We did that on a previous day. It was a couple weeks ago, though. It's probably labeled on the website. If you ever have a specific question about like a move, chances are we already have a video on it on KeenanOnline.com. Just type in knee shield and you'll see playing knee shield, passing knee shield, submissions. Like, it's all there. We pretty much just go like we have answers for probably 70% of all of jiu-jitsu, and then we kind of just go through and redo it and then add new things like we're doing here with questions and issues that arise and are brought to my attention. What about a day with shin-to-shin guards? Shin-to-shin guard it's not as much of a guard as just another control point. I think control points are an important aspect of jiu-jitsu that's not even categorized or considered. It's like not everything is a guard, a sweep, an off balance, or a submission. Sometimes there's control points, which is like a grip, but not necessarily a grip. It's just like something you do with your body that you perform something and it controls an aspect of them in a certain way that sets up other opportunities. Shin to shin is a perfect example of that. The fishing pole position is another example. Some of the armpit grips, the control that Miha did on my leg where it's bent like that, that's like kind of a control point. So like shin to shin, there's not a lot of shin to shin guards. Like shin to shin lasso is not going to be very effective. Shin to shin De La Hiva is not really possible. So really the only shin to shin setups are like when someone is in combat base and you just like use your shin to shin to break their combat base, or you're in spider and you use the shin to shin to break their knee forward position, or to just defend knee cuts. It's like a control point to defend certain things. It can't be like a go-to all the time. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We'll be back on Monday with, we were going to do belt guard, but I think we should do arm bar escapes on Monday.
Okay.
I don't know if we can move those. You might be able to just drag it, yeah. Nice. So on Monday we're going to do arm bar escapes, and if you want to have, and we'll probably get into maybe some ankle lock escapes if someone has that question, or if I remember. There's a lot of arm bar escapes, and we'll probably couple in arm bar attacks as well, like the counters and defenses to all the arm bar defenses and escapes, because there's a lot of counter and defense to arm bars. Like the guy getting arm bar has a lot of options. The guy attacking the arm bar has a ton of options. There's a whole little mini game battle there that is kind of different than a lot of the other submissions. How do you rate the cradle in BJJ? I don't think it's very effective because there's not a lot of submission setups there. It doesn't. You don't get points in it. Like, it's a great way to control someone's body, but it's just not really rewarded in the point system and kind of like the way jiu-jitsu set up. It's all right. We'll fix it later. I think we did 50-50 armbar not too long ago as well. Again, I know you guys are here to ask questions on the stream, but I have a limited amount of time, and we prioritize the Keenan Online member questions. But I would say 95% of the questions I see here, we literally have answers for them already on video if you just type them in on Keenan Online. I don't think you understand how much stuff we have on there. There's a lot of very detailed stuff. And if there isn't, we'll do it and put it on there in one of the streams or something. Yeah, so I mainly answer stuff that maybe is like older techniques that that I haven't refilmed yet, or stuff that I want to put on there that I know a lot of people are asking. But some stuff I see in here, we have answers, and I just direct you to the website. So
yeah, and it helps a lot to be on topic. So if it's an escape question, there's a higher chance than
right.
like
Yeah, so today we're doing escapes specifically, so. All right, guys, thank you all for coming. Let's bow it out. I don't want to roll today. I'm not feeling great. I just feel worn out kind of from nothing, from doing nothing. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. Remember, if you need to work on your lapel guard, lapel encyclopedia is really the only place you should be getting your information. Keenan Online, like I said earlier, is a great resource just for overall jiu-jitsu everywhere. If you're not a member on there, I highly suggest it. And it prioritizes you as far as the stream days. If you have questions as a Keenan Online member, we always make sure to get to those questions first. So you'll have that as a benefit as well. And then in the description of this video, you can check out our merchandise, which just goes to keeping the gym alive and, you know, the usual stuff. And keeping Tony alive.
10% discount code, Legion Live, for the merch.
Oh, there's a merch code.
Yeah.
This is new. I didn't know about this. Legion Live, you can get 10% off on merchandise in there.
Just for people that are listening right now.
Just for you guys, only you. All right? Thanks, everyone. Did we bow out already? Yes. See you guys.